I've had this deck kicking around for a few years. It's the 22 Major Arcana cards. It's a comical representation of Claude Burdell's 1751 Marseille deck. And I anticipate getting a nice facsimile reproduction soon after learning kind of what I really want. In the meantime, these cards are so big and unwieldy, I've never really had much of an interest in them. So I trimmed off all the numbers and all the borders on them to try to make them a little bit smaller. Cutting off the numbers has forced me to have an appreciation for the ordering of the classic tarot cards and giving me some insight into their ordering. So I'd like to share some thoughts with you as a complete neophyte beginner here with the tarot. How I see the ordering of these cards, starting with the Fool. And I have done a little bit of reading, how the tarot is really about the Fool's journey. The Fool can be the Fool. I mean, look at the way everything's wrong there. Holding the bag wrong. His pants are down and dog's biting him in the ass. Or the Fool can be the most clever, insightful person in the room who's calling out all of humankind's folly, just like the Shakespeare plays. So that's where we're starting with. I know that much. And I also know that the 22 Major Arcana cards end with Le Monde, or the world, who represents integration, completion. She's a very auspicious card with all kinds of symbolism around there that I hope to learn about soon. So begins and ends with this narrative. So that's a start. This is my favorite card, Temperance. And I know that she's the 14th card, so I'm going to stick her down there. Yeah, I'm going to do this just kind of intuitively the way that I see it as I go through the cards. I know that the moon, the sun, and the stars are together. I know that the emperor and the empress are right about there, representing worldly power. And the priestess is going to be on this side, facing the Fool and the Magician. Let's see, I must have gone over. Anyway, I know that the tower's down there because this is a funky situation down around here. I know this is a really intriguing run to me. So I kind of understand how this goes. I'll get to that in a moment. And I believe the Strength comes before Le Perdu, or the Hanged Man. A lot of Christian iconography in here. St. George and the Dragon. Strength, courage, fortitude. You're going to need that going through these darker times. And she's the answer to navigate these, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And I think, well, I know the Hermit's over here somewhere with his guiding lantern looking this way over the beginning of the narrative. And back to the elements here. The Stars kicks off the elements set, or series as I would call it. The stars, the moon, and Le Soleil, the sun, or Le Sol. Anyway, the lovers are going to be up in here somewhere. And the priestess, there we go. She's looking at the magician. Let's just find the magician, who represents creation, creativity, invention, also with that slight air of mischievous and mystery with his accoutrements there. So this is kind of a set to me in a way, these three cards. The spiritual guide, the spirit guide, kind of blessing these two characters in the beginning, representing the Fool's journey and the magician of creation and invention, and she's their guiding spirit. This is the way I think about it in my beginner neophyte brain. These are the worldly powers. And then after that, let's see, the Chariot is, I believe, after this. And yeah, the Chariot represents triumph. It's also an auspicious card. And I believe that's followed by Justice, and then the Hermit. And then the Wheel of Fortune is after the Hermit and right before the Strength card. I'm not referring to any notes right now. I'm just doing this intuitively. And the Sun card finishes off this elements mini-series, as I would call it. The stars representing wishes, hopes, very auspicious card. And the moon representing dreams, vision quests, perhaps difficult undertakings. It also has a water element in there, as does the stars, and as does temperance, which is interesting. And of course, the sun representing harmony and just good times. Can't really go wrong with that card, seems to me. Oh, might as well just finish where we're at here. We got Judgment. That would be near the end of the tarot, going along with kind of some Christian themes, as I see it in these cards. And the Judgment could also, not just from a Christian standpoint, of course, but could represent self-reflection and conscience to me. And our spirit quest, ultimately, of where we want to go in that finally, in a final sense. And then the integration of the world with her circling wreath and the very interesting symbolism here, iconography. Now, the priest looks on. I'm going to move these over here a little bit. Okay, so we have the Fool, the Magician, and the Priestess. Don't forget that. The Empress and the Emperor. And then we're going to have Le Pape, the priest, looking over the lovers. This is the way I see it. Like he's looking over them as some kind of matrimony situation. However, there's a love triangle going on here with Cupid's arrow, so that's very interesting and kind of funny too at the same time. And then after that, we have the Chariot representing triumph, success, justice, levying the law of the land, and then the Hermit looking over all of this. This is my interpretation of the Hermit as he goes off into solitude to ponder and meditate on all of these conditions of humanity. Now, the Wheel of Fortune, we have a turning point here after the Hermit. This represents chance, chaos. Fortuna was a very popular theme, fortune, especially in the Renaissance. And to navigate that in a Christian sense, one had to stay on the straight and narrow path. And that's what temperance represents to me. As we enter this kind of dark, somber phase, this series right here to me is a very kind of dark, somber phase of the tarot. And strength leads it off with fortitude, resilience, bon courage, St. George and the Dragon. Well, anyway, you can see that. This series starts off, the set starts off here with Le Perdu, or the Hanged Man, which could represent something quite dire. It can also represent the death or end of something and the beginning of something else, like kind of forcing the issue. Put a fork in me, I'm done. It's time for a change, right? I seem to draw that card quite a bit lately, followed by the Death card, La Mort, Temperance, right in the middle. Look at this. It flanked in between two cards on each side of pretty dire import. Le Diable on one side of her and Death on the other side. And then if one gives in to the impulses of Le Diable, it ends in destruction of the fall of the Tower of Babel, like the Philistines, I think, right? So that's a really interesting run to me. It seems like there's no mistake in how the creators of the tarot through the centuries laid that out. And then followed by the very intriguing kind of open-ended nature elements with the stars, the moon, and the sun, and culminating with that Judgment card and the World card. So the only ones that I get tripped up on sometimes in this ordering would seem to be I believe Justice comes right before the Hermit. The Chariot card, I often kind of space out where that one goes. And also, from what I've been reading, like in the Rider deck, the Rider Waite deck, he changed the Strength card and the Justice card, I believe. I think this is supposed to be the 8th card. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, that would be, yeah, it would be, it's the 9th card in the order, but it would be the 8th card because of the Fool. I'm not really sure about that. Tell you what, I'm going to take a little break here and go get my notes. I'll be right back. Okay, let's see how close I am here in the ordering. Might as well read in French and practice some French here, huh? So we got the Lovers, oui, and then le char, victoire, success, mérité, reconnu, grande ambition. So yeah, that's right. And then Justice. Okay, so I got that right. Wheel of Fortune, le roue de la fortune. My French is great, isn't it? And then La Force, or the Strength card. So yeah, I actually got those all right intuitively. These are kind of like a transition cards to me as far as narrative goes. I mean, up until this point, this seems pretty well laid out intuitively as far as in a narrative sense, with the Fool, the Magician, the Priestess as kind of one set to me. Worldly powers with these two. Love and union with these two. And then this is kind of like, I could see how those would be interpreted by some to go in other places, because the Chariot and Justice kind of seem to be floating in there in their own individual thing. And then the Hermit, I like how the Hermit's really looking this way in this deck, like kind of overseeing all of this, but of course contemplating, meditating on that in solitude with the guiding lamp for insight. And then we have a shift, the Wheel of Fortune, the element of chance, chaos, fortuna, and going into, we're going to have strength because we're about to go on a difficult journey right here, represented by death themes all the way through here in this series, in this run right here. And she's the way to navigate all of these trials, as it were, even death, the balance, the necessity of balance. And she's also got the water symbol there, as does the stars and the moon. Let's see, are there any more, is there any more water iconography anywhere around here? Not that I can see, unless you guys could point something out. So that's interesting to me too. She's my favorite card. So yeah, that's how I see intuitively, in a narrative sense, how the Major Arcana is laid out. And you don't even really need the numbers to see most of this. And actually, honestly, I never really paid attention to the ordering of these until I chopped off the numbers of all the cards. And then all of a sudden I had this intuitive sense how most of them are laid out, how most of them go, with the exception, I would say, of these two right here, especially. So please post your comments below. It's kind of fun to play around with these. These are such archetypal themes in these 22 Major Arcana that it is fun to explore them, as these themes are pervasive through our whole human experience. And there's a lot of iconography and symbolism here that go back to previous belief systems. And there's a lot to explore there that many of you who study this stuff know a heck lot more about than I do. And for those of you, and also beginners like myself, please do post your comments below. And thanks for tuning in.